What happens at the farm stays in your mind forever. Written by The Lonely Wanderer 702. My job as a utility locator was a fun time. Getting to drive everywhere and getting to see the different walks of life had me on complete thrills every day. The farmsteads I got to see on a regular basis were fascinating, but one stands out like a sore thumb to this day. It was a fresh, crisp fall day in October. I woke up for the day, anxious to see my workload, and to also see where my tracks would be set. I opened my work phone, opened my work app, and patiently waited for the jobs to load. 17 sites, 2 of them in the middle of nowhere. Great, gotta put those first, I said to myself, as I got ready to head out the door. I got into my vehicle and made the 25-mile journey to the first farmhouse, not knowing what awaited me. As I pulled up, I noticed a strange, heavy feeling. You know that feeling when you are being watched, but you don't know where? Yeah, that's the feeling I got when I pulled up. Good morning. Just here to locate some lines so you can go do your work, I said to the homeowner as he walked out the door to greet me. Okie dokie. Just be mindful of the barn area. Lots of nails and stuff, Dan, the farm owner, said as he went back inside. I hooked up my gadgets and went about my duty, paying no attention to the outside world. That's when I noticed a strange odor in the air. It wasn't that pungent animal smell, but a sweet one. The ones you get with an older perfume or cologne. I got near the barn area and noticed the door was wide open, but didn't see anything. I love old barns. They always have a great old smell that tickles my nose. I decided to put my machines down and take a stroll through. Circa 1900s barn, nicely kept up and still had the old look. That sweet, deep smell was back. I turned around and I saw her. I didn't know if she was the wife or somewhat of my imagination. She was wearing an old-style dress, probably 1920s era. She gave one glance at me and faded into the morning light. That's when I knew I was dealing with the supernatural and not a real person. I went up to the door of the house and politely knocked. The farm owner came to the door and, with a concerned look, "Is everything okay?" he asked. "Yeah, everything's fine. I just had a general question about the barn. It's definitely old and I'm into those older historical buildings and the such," I said with a smile on my face. "That barn has been in my family since the 1800s. Lots of history, and it's got some dark stuff to it as well. Not many people know about the murder-suicide that happened in there, but some nights you can still hear the effects of it," he chatted. "I would love to hear more about this barn. Here's my number. Call any time. I have to go back to it, and it was a pleasure meeting you," I said, shaking his hand. I didn't want to tell him what I saw just yet. Maybe it was a distant relative, but I wanted to keep it under wraps until I got clear confirmation if I was able to even investigate the barn. Well, I got my wish. The homeowner called me later that day and told me I could walk around the barn at night, but warned me of the cattle that stay in the corrals. He said the cattle, when spooked, make a wailing sound that'll scare anyone away. The first part of the night was uneventful, but the worst part was coming, and I wasn't prepared for what was about to happen. At just about midnight, the undulating smell came back. Sweeter than it was before, but it had a sickening stench to it. I realized that she was here. A clatter came from behind me near the barn door, and I spun around to see nothing. "Who's here?" I said, hoping to hear a reply. No response. I continued through the barn, searching high and low, looking at the old farm work, admiring how beautiful of a barn it was, even if my only source of light was my flashlight. Another sound rang, this time in the form of a loud bang. I stopped. I quietly ducked behind a stack of hay and waited for wherever it was to go away. Footsteps. I heard footfalls getting closer. The breathing, the deep, shallow, guttural breathing made my skin crawl. I poked my head around the bales. I should never have done that. There, in the moon's light, she was standing. She didn't have the same complexion as when I first saw her, but this time she was in worse shape. Her skin was gray and shaggy, her clothes were tattered and ripped. What stood out the most was the rope, like bruising around her neck. Her and I locked eyes for a few horrifying moments. She didn't have eyes, just black sockets. Then she raised an arm and pointed a finger at me. In that moment, my throat clenched, and I couldn't breathe. It felt like she had a hold of my neck, squeezing the life from me. I tried to move, but couldn't. I was stuck in this scary situation for a good 10 minutes before she lowered her arm, and the hold released. She flashed a smile and pointed up to the top of the barn, where there was a third level. I quickly realized that she was the relative of the farm owner that was killed. She was showing me where she had died. She lowered her arm and faded away into the night. I got up and continued up to the top level of the barn. She was there. I knew she was. As I got to that level, everything changed. It got heavier and darker, and I couldn't walk without feeling like I was walking in a pool. I didn't feel right up there. Thinking on the spot, I quickly took a picture and bolted out of there. I got back down to the second level and checked my camera, but what I was able to catch on my camera changed my mind on everything. There in the foreground was a man, early 40s, overalls, and watching me from the back corner. He had a look of complete hatred and disdain. I could feel his rage just from the photo. That's when I knew he was the husband of that woman, and he's probably coming after me as well. It was around 4 a.m. when I decided to pack up and head for home. It was a very interesting but terrifying night. But apparently that man that I caught a photo of wasn't going to let me leave without stirring up his own problems. As I got up to leave, I noticed a wet area near me that I hadn't noticed before. I checked myself to see if I ran into anything, and that is when I felt the long scratches on my leg. I quickly shined my flashlight on them, and they were deep. "So you want to cause issues? Well, you're a coward for killing your wife and then yourself. That's what I think of you," I shouted, knowing this entity could hear me. I should never have said that. More footsteps, but this time behind me. I felt it get real cold. Then the hands of a man grabbed me from behind. I tried to get away, but it was too late. He had me by the neck, and he was strangling me. We locked eyes, and I knew I was in for a fight after provoking him. He grinned the most sickening, frightening smile I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how long I was caught in this sadistic, paranormal grip, but I woke up to the farm owner hovering over me. "Oh my God!" I yelled, seeing him as I opened my eyes. "You okay? We woke up to you screaming. What happened?" he asked me with a look of concern. "You'll never believe me if I told you," I said with a tired look. "Come inside and have some breakfast and coffee. We'll let you calm down and you can tell us about it," he exclaimed, helping me up and walking me inside. After I ate my fill, I proceeded to tell them everything that happened. From the moment I got there for work to after the time he came to me after it all transpired, the face of this man went from understanding to absolute terror. I should have warned you, I'm so sorry. My uncle killed his wife in the 30s. He was a very, very evil, abusive human being. Jennifer, his wife, tried to leave. He beat her, dragged her out of the same barn, hung her up in the rafters on the 3rd level, and then turned on himself, he said as he drank his coffee. I'll tell you this, that was the worst experience I've ever had. I think his wife was trying to warn me, but I didn't heed it in time. And in the end, I paid for it, I said, exhaling. You probably did. You really didn't like people. Jennifer, however, she liked you from the start, welcomed you in with open arms, Dan said with a tear in his eye. From that day forward, I went back a few times to say hello to them. But I will never step foot back in that barn. No matter how many times I see Jennifer welcoming me with a smile.